want the whole thing. I want the chair, the window. I want Mellody Hobson. How you doing, girl?
Whatever that office space you're working in, give me some of that.
Great. You're not going to show up right for you.
Yeah. No,
You show up. I got to show up right.
No,
you did.
You did. So let me set this up properly. Thanks for being with us, Mellody, first and foremost.
Thanks for having me.
One of, I believe, 6, she'll correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of 6 in her family.
Yep.
Grew up without privilege and was an intern, if I understand this properly, at Ariel. People don't know this, or maybe they haven't focused on it. I'm going to repeat that. She's now the president of Ariel, which is the $13 billion mutual fund and investment company, the largest of its kind, black-run, black-owned in the world. She was an intern at this company. And it wasn't like she had the hookup or something, or came from wealth. I mean, she had that thing that she knew she was a winner before she won anything. Let me now go to the end and come backwards. Because as a woman, she certainly had to prove herself to be twice as smart as the men around her, even, I would argue, even the black men around her. She was chairwoman of DreamWorks Animation, I believe, and negotiated an acquisition. She is, I've already mentioned, president or co-president of Ariel. She'll correct me there. And also, she is subsidiary funds. She serves on the board of a range of institutions, including vice chair of Starbucks, and serves on the board of J.P. Morgan Chase, I believe, and a half dozen other very impressive companies. But all of that covers up, and she's had a sort of an indirect TV career. She's had shows she's done. Essentially, what I'm saying is, you're talking about a well-rounded person here. And a quote I've stolen from her with attribution is, she loves math because it doesn't have an opinion. So in short, we'd say, where I grew up in Compton, she's a bad sister, S-I-S-T-A, sister.
Wait, I want to add, not only does she do all that stuff professionally, she's got wife and mother to boot.
Oh, yeah, wife and mother.
You know,
yeah.
let me just be clear, those are the most important titles, to be clear.
Yep.
But
domestic
Mellody,
engineer,
she's handling all of it.
Domestic engineer by itself, mother, wife, is enough to exhaust most men.
Absolutely.
Just by themselves. So to do all that is pretty amazing. And then her and her husband have a foundation. And they have done something that, I mean, I was just cheering through the internet last week. I sent her a note, I think it was last week, week before. They made a gift to her alma mater, Princeton, and took down, the results of which takes down the name of somebody who had an interesting past, a former U.S. president, and it's going to be replaced by Mellody Hobson's name. I believe this is the first time in history that a black woman will adorn a building on the campus of Princeton. Do it.
You go.
Mellody, welcome to the Hope Global Forum.
Thank you. Well, a couple of things. We're not the largest minority-owned investment firm. We're probably the largest in the mutual fund business, but we were the first. Fantastic. And I have to say, on the Princeton story, it's the first residential college named for a black woman. There's a building on the campus, small building named with Toni Morrison's name on it. So I want to be like, never ever overstate anything. But the replacing of Wilson College was significant because of a college at Princeton is a group of buildings. It's not one building. It's where you live and eat, and it's where you do a lot of your life occurs when you're an undergraduate. So it's your school within your school, if that makes any sense. That's the first.
Yeah, it's the heart and the head coming together. It's where you live so that you can work, do the work of the university. I got it. And, you know, Lisa, you jump in here anytime you like. She told me I could ask her anything I wanted to ask her.
Well, I'm going to start. May I start on her
No,
soft
please.
side?
By the way, I want everybody to see that none of this is scripted. We're just having a conversation, and she don't need a script.
Go for whatever you want to ask.
She can handle whatever you throw at her.
I know that she can. I know that she can. So Mellody, I'm the one that said your titles of wife and mother, I'm calling those your most important titles. I'm a mom, so I understand. And I know your mom was so incredibly special to you and your siblings. Can you talk a little bit about her and the impact that she had on your life? Because we look at the end product of who you are and what you've done, and we're like, holy crap, how does she do all that? So you've done a ton, but can you talk about Mom a little bit?
I'd love to. I mean, my mother passed away a few years ago. I was lucky to have a really great mom. My mom was a great mom for reasons that just probably would not be obvious to the average person. First of all, she was extremely introverted, very, very quiet, the opposite of me in a lot of ways. She had 6 kids. The kids were all different. And she mothered us very differently. She didn't have a one-size-fits-all model for her children.
Interesting.
I think that's extraordinarily rare. I've actually never seen anyone else do what she has done. My siblings were much older than me, some more than a couple decades. And it created a bunch of mothers for me. I had 4 sisters and a brother. And as a result of that, because they were so much older, I could look at their lives and make decisions based upon the decisions that they made. So that I give them a lot of credit for the person that I am, because I could learn through their mistakes as this young set of eyes watching them. But going back to my mother, a couple of quick things. One was very, very pragmatic, dreamer, but pragmatic, very rare to put together. She used to tell me all the time I could be or do anything. But she also told me all the hard things that I would confront in life as a person of color and as a woman.
Right.
The other thing about her, which I really do appreciate and respect, is that I was really an odd child. I mean, super odd, like obsessed with school, really crazy, fanatical, like obsessive compulsive kind of kid. And she would always just say, she's perfect. And I think that was just a really interesting thing to do to a child. Instead of telling you how different and odd you were, she just literally she would say she's perfect. And I didn't believe I was perfect. And obviously she was a mother who taught me right from wrong and when I didn't do things the right way, etc. But she just didn't make me second guess myself in terms of how I came out of the womb. To her, it was fine. And so as a result of that, I've always been very comfortable with who I am. And I hope that other people can have that experience.
Wow, that built a lot of confidence, I would presume, right? Which is what a lot of women lack all the time.
Kind of, blowing up my head sort of way, just more like, that is, you are good the way you are. She knew I was just always working so hard. And my mom used reverse psychology on me. I was the kind of kid who would stay up all night studying. And she's like, go to bed. I was like, are you crazy? That kind of thing. I was like, I have a test tomorrow. She's like, miss school. I was like, what are you talking about? She worked on me because she knew I would just drive myself so hard.
Yeah. Talk about flexibility and look at all that stuff she learned from Mom.
I never did anything she said, just first of all, in that regard. I did not listen to her.
But
she also, the last thing she said, if you slept past 6 a.m., the world was passing you by.
Oh, right. Wow.
To this day, I wake up and I see what lights are on.
Oh.
And I have people ahead of me just because I was sleeping.
When I look at her, and I want to make sure we have time for where we are right now at this moment. But when I look at her, when I look at Mellody, I see somebody who was told that she was loved.
Exactly.
And my mother told me she loved me every day. My wife's parents told her that they loved her every day. It's obvious because when she smiles, as if generations are smiling through her. Mm-hmm. The story she told about her mother turning a negative and that she was odd into a positive. My wife has freckles, and kids would tease her about it. And then her grandmother said, no, that means that God just breathed on you. Well, that just lit her up like a Christmas tree. So she walked in, all of a sudden now everybody says, oh my God, the girl with freckles. I mean, it became a positive thing because of the way she saw herself. So you walk through this world with a sense of your own somebodiness, not any better than anybody else, but although no worse than anybody else, no inferiority or superiority complex, reasonably comfortable in your own skin. I think that this self-esteem is the gift that we've got to try to find a way to inspire in a whole generation of our people. This sense of not just confidence, ability, but esteem, to love yourself. And particularly in a world that's sort of suggesting that we need you, but we don't really want you. We're living, I think, in a moment in history right now, Mellody. But history doesn't feel historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. What is this moment meaning for you? And how do we have the most outsized impact on this moment, if we call it, as Mark Morial said earlier, the third Reconstruction? Economic empowerment, movement in the suites to match what we're doing in the streets. We got to get the protesters to pivot from this important work in the streets, it's really important, to pivot now to having a business plan that works in the suites, that gets us some equity. What is this moment meaning to you?
I think this is about using your power for good, wherever that power is. And I really challenge people who say, well, I have no power. And I always go back and I say, Rosa Parks chose not to get out of the seat. So everyone has power. I think the question becomes, what trees do you plant? How to use the power where you are to stand up at this moment and say, I'm going to hold myself first and others accountable. And I start with myself, because it's easy to do, as we like to say at Ariel, admire the problem. Just talk about all the wrongs instead of saying what would I do to fix it.
Admire the problem.
Well, I hear her mom coming through. I hear mom coming through, Mellody.
We have to say it's not about just outside and holding people accountable, but it's about holding ourselves accountable.
Right.
That's why we started the Black Corporate Directors Conference almost 20 years ago, where we bring together the Fortune 500 Black directors. Because we said these people hold these seats of power, and we have to make sure the civil rights agenda is in that boardroom, and that we're looking after people of color as fiduciaries to make these companies better companies. And so there's a lot that still can be done. I think this new wave of activism and this new wave of civil rights is very much about the corporate environment. I think the 60s were about government, laws and regulations. But this phase is about business and really understanding that at the end of the day, the social unrest that we have in the society is directly correlated. And you know this, John, because this has been your work too. It's directly correlated to economic inequality.
No doubt.
Until we fix economic inequality and create equal standing from the perspective of wealth in this country, we will not be able to heal the wounds that exist in this society.
I think that this last 3 minutes is probably the most important thing that has been said today so far. You said we can't just admire the problem. I'm paraphrasing. My God, that's a drop the mic.
Right.
We have become, when you're in a surviving mentality, you're an expert at what you're against.
Correct.
But a thriving and a winning mentality
It's what you're for.
is an expert in what you're for. But we've been so traumatized, almost like PTSD for 400 years. Not only are we admiring the problem and obsessed with it, it's what we're good at. And so you want to do more at what you're good at. But that doesn't pay a bill. Blaming your neighbor doesn't build any wealth for you. Doesn't pay your bill, doesn't get you the kid through college. So
or change your position completely.
Excuse me, repeat that?
Change your position. Change your position where you are.
That's right.
Recalibrate who you are and where you are. Not whose you are, but where you are.
Where you are, and as you said, plant some trees where you are. So
That's right.
If you're in the boardroom, don't just take that seat. You better be responsible for being in that seat. And going to your point about economics, I call it, we're calling it now the third Reconstruction, about economic empowerment. 100% of these in-place shootings of blacks, in-place meaning in neighborhood, were in 500 credit score neighborhoods. No one's mentioned that. 100% of them that happen in the neighborhood are in 500 credit score neighborhoods. That is directly correlated to economics, opportunity, a sense of whether you're a stakeholder, perceived to be a stakeholder or not.
Right.
Are the police there to protect and to serve, or to oversee and abuse because they don't feel like you matter, and a few other things? The other piece of that is 90% of all jobs come from the private sector.
Sure.
100% of all legitimate wealth comes from the private sector. So government matters. Government is really important. but the government gets their money from the private sector, whether it's the companies or whether employees who work for them. Right. So what you're talking about now, in my opinion, is the whole ball game. What the 2 or 3 things, in your opinion, Mellody, that we could do, not just the civil rights leaders, but how to do what I call the civil rights leaders in the suites, join in a plan with the civil rights leaders to create the change that we all want right now? Are there 2 or 3 things that you got on your mind?
Well, first of all, I want civil rights leaders to talk about Black business.
Yep.
It's got to be on the agenda. You know, we get into a narrative around which, listen, I am 100% in agreement that in this country you should be able to have the best education no matter what your zip code. I agree. Mm-hmm. We've litigated this, talked about it, worried about it, prayed on it. That has been, for the last 50 years, we've talked about that conversation. Yeah. I'm absolutely in favor of criminal justice reform. These are big, important, sweeping issues. But what we don't hear enough of is about the importance of Black business.
That's right.
And when you look back at some of the greatest Black entrepreneurs of all time, as well as some of the people in various communities across this country that did well, they were anchors to those communities. Mm-hmm. And that may have been the local doctor, insurance company executive, or John Johnson. You can go around the country and find these symbols of hope and who anchored a community together. And we've lost those anchors. Those anchors are tied to, again, economics. Yeah. We need that wealth creation, which ultimately leads to jobs and the like. So what do I want the people in the boardroom to do? We talk about the 3 Ps: people, purchasing, and philanthropy. If it matters, it counts, start counting. At the board level, look at the board based upon ethnicity. No multicultural umbrella where you put Black, Hispanic, people of color, and women together and say, here's our multicultural numbers. No. By ethnicity, so you see where you're over and underrepresented.
Right.
Same with at the C-suite, same with throughout the organization. If you have 90% of your diversity coming from executive assistants, you're not allowed to give yourself a pat on the back. Secondly, we talk about business diversity. Look at all of your areas of corporate spend, especially the big ones, which are professional services, financial services, and technology. Are you spending money with Black and brown people? And then last but not least, philanthropy. And I put it last, not least. I'm a little worried right now. It's the tail that's wagging the dog.
Right. A
lot of corporations feel very good about the philanthropic donations that they're making. I'm glad they're making them to NAACP and LDF and so many organizations and Black colleges and Black medical schools. All of that, great. But you cannot fix your house from without. You must fix it from within. The donation will not absolve you of the issues that you might have inside your corporation.
Amen.
You know what? I hear all of this and could not agree more. And I heard someone say the other day, Mellody, and I'm paraphrasing here now, but it was the audio needs to match the video, right? For all that folks are doing inside the corporation, not just write a check and walk away. Those days are over. Those are absolutely over. So
well, also,
because first of all, people are going to hold you accountable.
Right.
The people who work inside of the company, your customers are going to hold you accountable.
As they
the
should.
The virtual world that we live in, don't say it and don't mean it. Because people will be coming for you.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a new day in that regard.
Absolutely.
So as I'm sad to have to wrap this up, but as we begin to wrap this up, this has been an incredible.
Can we just talk to her all
day conversation. A couple of things hit me. Shimon Peres told me when I was in Jordan, John, people are going to criticize your work going forward because they don't understand it. But he said, you remind them, even if you wanted to distribute money like a socialist, you have to first collect money like a capitalist. And that's what I heard in reverse her saying, philanthropy is great, but there's the business case here. And that's what's sustainable.
That's right.
And keep in mind, these diverse communities are also keeping you in business.
And scalable.
And it's scalable. Thank you very much. We don't need charity in a handout.
Right.
Diverse companies in diverse communities and markets are prosperous. They're the most.
They drive money to the bottom line.
They drive money to the bottom line. So I hear her saying, let's expand and redefine a business case. And as Xander told me, the CEO of SurveyMonkey, he's speaking at the forum, use your balance sheet. I think you just said this in a different way. Use your balance sheet and your budget and your About Us page to judge how you're doing on diversity and inclusion. Is your About Us page all white? Yeah. Then you're not doing a good job.
Right.
This is a corporation.
Right.
I'm sorry. Am I hitting this right, Mellody?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the socialist capitalist example because I think capitalists get a bad rep. And I'm a capitalist, and I say capitalism is the best system that exists in the world. Show me a better one. There isn't one. And at the end of the day, as a capitalist, we can do a lot, and I certainly feel that way at Ariel, to change and help people's lives be better. Because of our investing, they can send their kids to college, retire comfortably, afford a home, start a business. All of that is as important as curing cancer in my mind.
Well, real talk though, Mellody. If you were not a successful company at Ariel and the other places, you couldn't do the philanthropy. You couldn't be on this program. You couldn't do the thing at Princeton. You couldn't. I mean,
yeah.
They couldn't give you an internship.
Like, listen, she's the financial avatar. We know.
Exactly.
I mean, Melody's got it going on.
So.
But that's actually one of the points that we want to make for our broader society. We should not be exceptions.
Agreed.
That's right.
Agreed.
I'm not proud of that.
Yeah.
There should be opportunities for more of all of us, because to the extent that exists, that creates more opportunity for our community. It's better for America and therefore better for the world.
Yeah.
Inclusion is actually just smart. It's not, you don't even have to be a do-gooder.
No, you're exactly right, but we do need and love the examples. So I want you to not only be the first, we certainly don't want you to be the last. So we agree with you 1,000%. You have been a gem, as always. Thank you so very much for being with us.
Thank you. It's
and
so
sharing
great to
so many
see you, and
insights.
thank you for all you're doing.
As you exit, Mellody, I want to leave you with this. We're way over time, but this is so fun. There are black people and brown people looking at this who've been told that capitalism was horrible their whole life. And capitalism, as you said, is a horrible system like democracy, except for every other system. but folks will say, I hate rich people. My response, no, you don't. You hate rich people till you become rich. What you hate is a game system. And what we're trying to do here is make it transparent, level the playing field, and show you can do well and do good too. And when you do that and you flip the script pays for itself. It pays for everything else. God bless you, Mellody. Appreciate all that you do.
Thank you so